What's up, Franklin?
I'm Jeek.
And I'm Aaliyah.
And welcome to our Black History Month special.
Today, we will bring you back in time through the world of film and highlight the trials and tribulations of African Americans and their journey through the big screen.
Welcome to Black Hollywood.
School Days, done by Byron T. Harlan, Edison Records.
It was during the silent era where black characters first appeared in films. In the 1915 movie Birth of a Nation, the black people were played by white people in blackface, and the characters were degrading stereotypes. One of the most notable filmmakers at the time was Oscar Micheaux. He is regarded as the first major African-American feature filmmaker in the country. He was shunned by the studios in Hollywood, but he wrote, produced, and directed his own films during a time where African Americans expected to stick to the status quo. For the next 30 years, he produced and directed films that challenged Jim Crow-era society. These types of films led to a black separatist cinema movement during the 1930s and 40s, which sought to counter negative images that were portrayed in Hollywood.
It was the work of independent filmmakers such as William Greaves, who set the stage for the films and shows that followed during the 1950s and 60s. He produced and directed over 100 films and captured social issues and figures such as Muhammad Ali, the fighter, and Ida B. Wells' A Passion for Justice. These films highlighted phenomenal African American figures that made breakthroughs in their respective fields.
In the 70s, television shows about black people in America became more common. But the 70s also had movies called blaxploitation films, which were written and produced by black filmmakers for black audiences that showcased African Americans as heroes in movies. One person in particular was Gordon Parks, who became Hollywood's first major black director, bringing the iconic 1971 movie Shaft to theaters. Before the 70s, black people were rarely represented in movies. So black people made their own movies with action, drama, and excitement. These low-budget movies quickly became hits.
In the 80s, there was an incredible range of film genres and styles. You also had several young black filmmakers who made films about what was going on in the world, like Spike Lee. It was his 1989 film, Do the Right Thing, that focused on racial tension and police overreaction. It is considered as one of the most important films of the era.
During that time, black female filmmakers were also making their mark. One woman in particular was Debbie Allen. Debbie Allen is the creative genius behind the 1987 show, A Different World. At the time, there were a lot of things that could not be talked about on TV, but Debbie made sure that these important topics were addressed. A Different World's groundbreaking episodes were ahead of its time, taking on controversial topics for some that are still relevant today, such as race.
Oh, hey, my grandfather came to this country with nothing. He couldn't even speak the language. But he worked hard, and he made a place for himself and his family. Now, why can't you people do the same?
Hey, my grandfather built this country, man. He fought wars for it. And most places he went wouldn't let him sit down and get a cup of coffee.
This is also why we chose the theme song from this show for our own show's opening this season, because the show is a perfect example of our theme this year, reviving the culture.
In the 1990s, the social realism of Black life in America gave an insight of what's happening in the inner cities as of the lack of opportunities, which is why we have films like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society, making the producer and director, John Singleton, the first African American and youngest person ever to be nominated for an Academy Award.
In the 21st century, more strings of hit television shows and movies began to come about. Authors like Spike Lee and John Singleton created nuanced depictions of Black lives, which paved the way for later filmmakers like Jordan Peele and Ava DuVernay to use a range of genres like horror, history, documentary, and fantasy to explore Black lives from multiple perspectives. Ryan Coogler's 2018 blockbuster film Black Panther has also been widely praised for creating a fully realized Afrocentric urban utopia of Black people that includes a legendary hero we all know too well.
Well, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you for tuning in into One TV's Black History Month. Make sure to follow us on Instagram.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And remember, every day is full of Black history, so cherish the future and embrace the past.
And we'll see you in the halls, Franklin.